Ready for a change?
I am talking to you.
Then get ready to explore the quantum possibilities. It's time to transform that outdated paradigm into something universal and new. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. A time to think outside the box as we link to a higher consciousness. Welcome to the awakening. And now the hosts of Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love and Augie Nost.
Oh, hello, beautiful beings, deep thinkers and truth seekers. This is a little confidential, but hopefully, I have my hand over one eye. Hopefully, my program will remain dormant tonight because my handler isn't aware that I'm doing this broadcast. So I know it's not supposed to happen like that, but we do live in a quantum universe. And tonight we're going to be talking about the Illuminati. I like to call them the Illumentata because then it doesn't really summon them. But it really started out in 1776 as a secret Bavarian society that was outlawed at the end of the 18th century. And allegedly, it continued operating within the shadows. When we think secret society, we might think the Da Vinci Code or the Freemasons, the Bilderbergs. So just digging a little bit will reveal the alleged correlation to the Illuminati and satanic dealings. It's a covert world filled with symbolism and language that's unique to the secret society. You might think of MK Ultra, right? The symbolism includes monarch butterflies and bird cages and hand signals and one eye being covered. And these symbols are easily seen in the movie industry and in the music industry if we really look. And there are some famous performers allegedly reported to be part or previously part of the Illumentata. And, it's worth saying that the celebrities that were part of it are allegedly now clones because the real ones met with untimely or unreported deaths. So the people that we may liken with the Illumentata are people like Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Kanye, Madonna, Jay-Z, Britney Spears, right? Everybody wondered about her meltdown. Katy Perry, she had meltdowns. Rihanna. So is this true or isn't it true? I'm not sure. But the amazing, prodigious, and remarkable guest tonight that we have on is going to shed a lot of light into these shadows. Augie, will you tell us about our guest?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have a phenomenal guest here. This is Robert Morningstar. And since you are already listening to a show like this, I am sure that you are a little bit out of the box, so you have at least heard his name before. Chances are you know him well from videos and stuff that he's done over many decades. Just a little bit of background on Robert, and that is that he's a tremendous researcher into all the things we are not supposed to know about. And he is a Tai Chi master, a lecturer, a radio reporter, a sought-after guest on the radio shows and TV programs. He's also the host of the Morningstar Report and the Sounds of New York News on Revelation Radio. And he is also the publisher and the editor of UFO Digest. And when he gives you the web address here in a little bit, you got to go see that because there's some phenomenal pictures on that website. And a lot of them are NASA prints from things that should not be on the moon. You got to go have a look at this. He's also featured in the film The Professor, Tai Chi's Journey West, and appears in the film E.T.'s Among Us, the sequel. And I see him as a guest on radio shows everywhere, all the time, and talking about just about everything that is outside of the box and we're not supposed to know about. Now, there is a few people, there are very few people actually, more studied and knowledgeable on what is behind the curtain than Robert is. And he's also a licensed pilot. Gosh, I want to say that again. He is a licensed pilot, so he's got to be one of the good guys. He's also a civilian intelligence analyst, and by the time you get into the show, you'll understand what that term means. He speaks fluency Chinese, and he's a paranormal and UFO investigator, and his writings are permanently recorded at deeppolitics.com, and that is one website that you really should visit. It's phenomenal. And I have been talking way too long here. We want to hear from Robert. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy and Tina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, Robert,
regarding that biography, I'm privileged to have had a long, healthy life, and I've done a lot of things, and I'm happy to say today I renewed my membership in the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Oh. And it's a long, long history. One of these days I'll have to tell you about my in-flight encounter with a meteor that almost hit my plane.
Wow.
Closest encounter to a meteor that any human has had and lived to tell about it.
That's a little scary.
Amazing things happen to you when you fly. And actually, you know, one of the main reasons I got my pilot's license was my interest in UFOs, because I figured I'd have to go into their environment to find them or have them find me. And I have had, as a matter of fact, I'm happy to say that I had an in-flight encounter with the Tic Tac UFOs in May of 1990.
Wow.
New York City, over New York City, Long Island, Port Jefferson.
Right.
And I was passed by two egg-shaped craft that were rising from low in the haze on my left side. They flew across my nose and on past me, and I crossed their tail. So I got a spectacular view of two egg-shaped UFOs that were egg-shaped in profile and in the fore and aft view, the front view and back view. That was egg-shaped, and the side view was egg-shaped. It was the most remarkable geometry, and I was really amazed to see that the Navy revealed their existence, and disclosure has happened. Yeah. And it's a very important milestone in human consciousness on the planet. And what I should say, allowed human consciousness. You see, for the last 6 weeks, I've been reading on my own show, as a prelude to the guest, Jim Garrison's assessment of the assassinations of Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and JFK, looking backwards, in 1969. And one of the most insightful things that he said, which I've expressed in other words at the Times, was that after the JFK assassination, reality was split, and there is a permitted or allowed reality and then forbidden reality. Yeah. And that's where we stand now. The Munchkins have awakened in America, and I think that the consciousness has expanded so that we can see through the veil, the deception.
Yeah, but talking about those particular things, that brings me to the Illuminati. There are everybody has heard the term, and but few people really knows what it is, and I would love for you to maybe put some more light on this.
And how that relates to consciousness,
It's all about consciousness. It's about the natural human potential for super consciousness. And by super consciousness, I mean merging with God. Your consciousness, we are sparks. Jung, C.G. Jung, the great psychologist, he posited that let's say the Big Bang, that the Big Bang was when God's mind was blown. By the creation was God's mind was blown. And his consciousness exploded, and sparks of consciousness are scattered all over the universe. And wherever these sparks, called scintilla, exist, they start to aggregate molecular structure. And through the interaction with molecular structure, that spark of consciousness becomes aware both of matter and spirit, and the consciousness starts to grow. aggregating more and more complex forms and organisms, self-expression. So that it really goes back to that idea that consciousness is a whole, and we have a fragmented consciousness. We actually have the spark of God right now, which is the spark that's making you aware of what you're hearing and seeing right now. Overlaying over this consciousness, a bead of consciousness, are layers and layers of matter composing your body and your sensory organs that make it possible for you to perceive the external universe. But Emerson said divinity lies within. That's one of the most beautiful statements ever made. Divinity lies within.
Speaking of that, though, is when the Illuminati, as I have been kind of having a vision of it, there are parts of that is not bad, and there are parts of it that gets very nasty. But where does that fit in with the mind of God then?
Well, it has to do with the split that happened in the mind of God at the beginning of time that created spirit and matter and all the dichotomies, light and darkness, high and low, left and right. And you know what? Splitting reality, there's a word in Latin for something that divides, that splits, that destroys, and that is diabolical. That word, when you see the word divide, D-I, D-I-V, divide, split, D-E-V, devil, evil, deviation, all of these have roots, and it's sad that people don't understand the English language from the root. And by that I mean we used to be taught Greek, Latin. You'd had to have at least one classical language, in your education to really fully understand it. And when you have those, you have the building blocks of modern languages. That's very important in order to understand the hidden meaning in texts like the Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls. For example, you cited 1776 or so as the beginning of the Illuminati. Well, that's when it emerged into public consciousness when the German government, the Bavarian government, discovered the plots. However, it goes back much earlier.
Really?
I was gifted a book this year, several books, by a dear friend named David Pfaff, friend and mentor. He gifted me a book that was written in 1943 by a Jewish emigre from Nazi Germany who knew the inner circles and the inner secrets of the whole Nazi movement. He revealed in this book that what they were calling Nazism in 1930s and 40s was something much older, and that the label Nazism was just a new patina, a new cover-up, a screen over something much older, which was responsible also for World War I, exhibiting the same horrendous behavior. What the Nazis did in World War II was only an extension of what the Huns did in World War I, you see? And this book reveals that there was a secret society from the time of the Hohenstaufen, the Holy Roman Emperors, and particularly in Prussia, a unique form of Prussianism which was hell-bent on conquering the world. Way back when, they're going back to the Teutonic Knights. And so this man reveals that the innermost secret of this Prussian aristocratic secret society was a society that they called themselves the Society of Lizards.
Really?
Yes. Which is one of the strange, I've studied a lot of secret societies and a lot of, Chinese tongues and Chinese, fraternal organizations, which are all basically Masonic as well.
Right.
I had never come with a group in the Western world that had styled itself as the Society of Lizards.
What do you make of that? I mean, I'm thinking of, reptilians. I mean,
Exactly.
should I be thinking that?
Yes, go ahead. Tell me. See, this is how real, real research and investigation happens. You put out some clues, and then you let your intuition and your instincts play with that information. And I'd like to hear what this revelation to you of the Society of Lizards strikes in you, and what associations are coming forth from my having stated that. What do you think?
Well, okay, so what comes to mind, and this may just be popular culture, because I'm not well versed on reptilians, but, of course, like the monarchy comes to mind because of, the Photoshop picture of the queen having had a tail.
Yes.
And then, conversations that I never really dug deep into because they were a little scary for me about the Pleiadians and the Andromedans and, but that under it all, the reptilians were like the evil force with a very strong current running everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the same wavelength, and particularly because of the book of William Mills Tompkins, Selected by Extraterrestrials. Linda Moulton Howe brought forth this man in several interviews, and they're really worth going into. He was in the Office of Naval Intelligence as a lieutenant in World War II. And through ONI, he learned that the Nazis had made contact with the reptilian race and that they were engaged in genetic engineering. When you hear the phrase creating the master race, this was one of the concepts that they had in mind, to mix Nordics and reptilians into a new hybrid super race. And William Mills Tompkins revealed all of this in Selected by Extraterrestrials. He also mentions that he worked with extraterrestrials, humanoid extraterrestrials, and in particular, I believe it was two women, very, very beautiful, attractive women who were totally telepathic. He'd walk into a room with a question in his mind, and they'd give him the answer. And this is a characteristic that's also described or ascribed to the alien J-Rod, who was held at Area 51.
Wow.
But I want to go back to, if we may, let's go back farther. Okay.
So Robert, I just want to tell you we have like 3 minutes to break. Okay. So right. I don't want to interrupt you if you get into something really, really, really good. But
maybe you can set something up.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I believe that this Illuminati tradition goes back to pre-biblical times.
Really?
And that there are basically two entities involved in this constant cosmic struggle for domination of the earth, its resources, and human souls. And that we can trace those two rivals through history, where one overcomes the other for a while, and there's a tug of war between them. Christ and Lucifer,
right.
Moses and the Pharaoh, Jesus and Judas. This antagonism has to do with souls that have a mission on Earth, and they are bound with each other to work out destiny.
Wow. And the polarity, right? Is that what
it's always there, and within ourselves. We have something called the shadow.
Yes.
Individual shadow and the collective shadow. And every human being has to wrestle with that. But when the shadow overtakes a culture, as it did in Nazi Germany, as it has in communist China, then it is a menace to the society and to all mankind.
Wow.
We are at war with that.
And I want to talk about that. We've got 2 minutes to break, but I just want to mention, I heard Sadhguru talk about Hitler, and it forever changed the way that I looked at Hitler. Yes. Because he presented Hitler as, okay, he was who he was, he did what he did, but Hitler as believing that he was really doing the right thing. And Robert, that never occurred to me.
That's true. And it is a truth that it is the winners who write the history. And the entire history of the war and the events leading up to the war has been written by the victors in a very vindictive way. And they've left out very important facts about what went on leading up to the war, during the war, and even after the war.
Really good point. We have 1 minute to break, and I can't wait to come back and talk to you, Robert. I keep telling Augie, I just want to go to New York and have dinner with Robert Morningstar.
Anytime you're here.
I'm so happy to talk with you. But let's talk about genetic engineering and hybrid species and the shadow that overtook cultures. And we'll be right back after the break.
This is the Broadcast Team Alpha Show, hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. The one show that takes your doubts of the unknown and spins them into reality. Share your thoughts by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Call now. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More cutting-edge conversation and exploration of the quantum universe after this.
Hello, KCOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here from the Fenton Files to tell you about UFOCon 2020 in San Francisco, February 20th through 23rd. A conference like no other, UFOCon is where experiencers are going to reveal new information and science and consciousness will collide. So get your tickets at UFOCon2020.com. That's UFOCon2020.com. Don't miss what will be the most talked about conference of the decade.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
Immerse yourself in an epic journey through time where ancient mysteries unfold within a story of love and betrayal, as well as a battle of good versus evil in The Emissary Book 1. The reader's favorite gold medal award winner for visionary fiction 2019, the action and adventure of The Emissary continues in The Emerald Tablet, Book 2. The 2019's Bronze Medal Award winner, The Emissary and The Emerald Tablet by Tamara Veach and Rennie DeFazio are both available now on Amazon.com. Let your reading adventure begin.
Great.
It's great. I think it's great. I think it's
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
great. Make a note of it. It's great.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy and Kent Dunn. Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Come explore the quantum possibilities. This is Broadcast Team Alpha. Broadcast Team Alpha. To be on the show live, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. Share your thoughts of the show on Twitter at KCOR Radio, #KCOR. Or join the cutting edge conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now back to Broadcast Team Alpha with your free thinking hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nast.
Yeah, we are back with Robert Morningstar, and we are.
Okay, I just want to do a shout out to the chat room.
Oh.
The chat room is hopping tonight, so I just wanted to do a big shout out to everybody. There's Shady D and Margaret and Karen and JC and Parked Cake and Shadow and Truther and White Crow and Yappy and Z and Iowa Girl and Be Sexy at Any Age. Love her name. $1's worth. So, but just bring us back, Augie. I just had to say hi to everybody. You know.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we love you guys out there. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, here we are with Robert Morningstar. We're getting in the deep of it. And I hope you didn't lose your train of thought there, Robert, because we're really getting down into it.
Yes, indeed. Well, before we go further, let me go back and tell you how far back I think Illuminism goes back.
Good word.
that is the word for that belief in triggering. Well, let me just be blunt. Triggering the God gene. This is what it all boils down to. Humans have a potential for having their nervous systems transformed in such a way that you can go and have direct contact with God. And
Wow.
when you do that or arrive at it, you start living in what I describe as a universal moment, because time as we experience it is called profane time. It's the timing of a broken clock, whereas that is contained in one big moment of time, which is universal. The universal moment, it's like the heartbeat of the universe. The pulse. It's the pulse. And that pulse radiates from a central point, and that radiation, as it expands, different areas of it congeal into different substances and different dimensions. Some of them are strings, some of them are planes, some of them are spheres. And all of them, it's like a big cosmic soup, but somebody is stirring it. You see? And so you can think of God as the guy with the spoon stirring it and looking down. You know, whenever you stir something and get it moving rapidly, the centrifugal forces. It's say a bucket. The water on the edges start to rise. The waters start to part, and the center starts to sink in the vortex into a tornado or a wormhole. And a lot of the universe is operating with these vortices of energies, and not all of them are visible. But going back to how far back Illuminism goes, I think it goes back to these ancient gods of Sumeria. As I was telling Augie earlier, the whole story devolves about rival gods, rival cosmic gods up there in the higher reaches of reality, but down here, projected onto this planet, two rival brother gods in the Sumerian myth, Enki and Enlil, who vie for domination of the earth and its resources, and they split the planet amongst themselves. Enki gets Africa and that area to the west, and Enlil, the older brother, takes Sumeria and Central Asia. And that's where the creation unfolds. And only recently have I come to learn of the deciphering of a cylinder seal, a cylinder scroll, which is an object shaped like a cylinder engraved with cuneiform. And the point is, it's basically a book, but rolled in this solid little pillar, a clay pillar. And they take wet clay, and then they'll roll the whole thing across, and the entire text that's engraved on the pillar becomes a tablet that can be read. Mm-hmm. So this tablet that came to my attention last year, is called the Instruction of Enki. And this scroll, or this seal, explains the second chapter of Genesis perfectly in terms of genetic engineering, and specifically that chapter in Genesis. Actually, I think it's the opening. Let us create man in our own image. In our image shall we create him. Now, that sentence has puzzled scholars for years. It talks in the plural. Let us, plural, create man, single, in our plural image. So, that's been a mystery for aeons. And this scroll explains it perfectly. It says that Enki gathered around 14 mother goddesses. And the plan was to create a new creature on this planet. And so they composed a bundle of organic matter. They used clay. They used some substance from the local denizen, the proto-hominid. They used their own sexual secretions, pieces of flesh, hair, and they bundled it up into this clay. And then, to complete the process, they killed a god. They killed a lesser god, not one of their level, but they're different hierarchies. So they took a very high level, but not the omnipotent god, and they killed that god and took his soul and stuffed it into the bundle of clay. They then took the bundle of clay and cut it into 14 pieces. And then they implanted each piece in each of the 14 volunteer mother goddesses. They waited 10 months, and after 10 months, Adamu was born, and he was red. Adamu means man of red clay. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it started. Then, in the book of Enoch, we learn about the fall of the Watchers, who were also called the Shining Ones. And this is where Illuminism begins. The angels, the fallen angels, crossed with a certain group of women that they took. Because that's the second chapter of Genesis that explains that the sons of heaven looked upon the daughters of mankind, and they found them comely, and they went in unto them and produced great heroes, men of renown, the Nephilim, the giants. Okay? So there you have another crossbreeding that happened very early in the history of mankind between these celestial beings. They came to Earth. They were supposed to watch humanity evolve, but they lusted. Those girls looked good even then. So, to angels, you know.
Ancient history.
Yes, it's a very, very interesting story. And so it says in the book of Enoch that each of them, there were 200 of these watchers, and Azazel and Samiyaza were their leaders, and others, you know all the names, Kokabiel, etc. So, but the main ones are very interesting, Azazel and Samiyaza. Now, when I found the book of Enoch, I had already been exposed to Billy Meyer. And Billy Meyer said that Samiyaza was the name of the Pleiadian pilot that contacted him first. Became his first contact. Whoa, what's going on here? Such a rare name. Now we have the book of Enoch, this really ancient text. I mean, it's as old as Genesis, except it was extracted and rejected by the Catholic Church and lost. Oh, it was lost for 1,700 years. And in the 1700s, they found 2 copies of it. One was in Ethiopian, and the other one was in Slavonic, in the Slavic region of Europe. When they took these 2 texts to England and compared them, they found that even though the texts were broken, some parts were damaged, each one had the part that was missing in the other. Wow. And the story was consistent in Ethiopian and in Slavonic, and that's how we learned about the Watchers and the fallen angels, and how God sent Michael, Gabriel, Phanuel, and Uriel to Earth to make sure that the Watchers don't consume mankind. Because the story is that the offspring of the Watchers were giants, and they were faster, stronger, smarter than humankind. And they started to look down upon humankind and degrade them. And ultimately, they started to cannibalize them. They started to eat human beings. And human beings prayed to the Godhead. So they went to Enoch, who had this ability. Enoch was a man who had his God gene. We know now it's called VMAT-2. There's a gene in the human body. When activated, or when it is active, gives human being capacity for higher level mystical and spiritual experiences. And if that gene is shut down, you crash. It's as if you are imprisoned in the material world until you can get that gene cranked up, or it awakens, so-called enlightenment or flashes of illumination. So anyway, this is what's gone on. And so these angels taught their wives the skills, the arts, mathematics, celestial navigation, cosmetics. They even list cosmetics and the use of antimony to make the eyes more beautiful, how to fashion weapons, how to make metal weapons, and so on and so forth. Astronomy, astrology, all of these things were taught by the angels to these women and the giant, their offspring. But they got out of hand, and so God sent Gabriel, Phanuel, Uriel, and Michael as the leader to bind Azazel. And where did they bind them? They bind them there in the Middle East. And they cast him down into a pit. But God says, bury him on his back so he can look up and watch the destruction of his offspring. Cast stones upon him in such a way that the sun never shines upon him. And bring the children of the Watchers into wars with each other, that they may destroy themselves, and thereby you will save mankind. That's a fascinating book. Everyone should read it if you really want to know what's been hidden from you in the Bible. And
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So when you go into, let's say, to present day MK Ultra and some of the other government hidden black project, they may have been studying what they did back then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The traditions, each of the traditions involves a series of initiations and indoctrination in occult methods of forcing illumination. Now, let me say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to achieve enlightenment. And trauma is not the best one of them. It is a quick one. It is a very quick one, and they utilize it. So the Illuminati, let's call them that. And the Illuminati is widespread around the world. It's multinational. It's actually supranational. That means it's a brotherhood or a cabal that is above nations. They consider themselves higher and apart from nations and basically humankind. Yeah. It's a certain kind of conceit and a certain kind of superciliousness. And you know what it is? It's the first sin. It's pride taken to the extreme.
Wow.
And the embodiment of the extreme of pride and selfishness is Lucifer. And that is ultimately where the higher reaches of these organizations aspire to become, to seat themselves on the throne of God. You know, Lucifer's crime, and that's what it was revealed by Jesus when he talked to the Pharisees Jesus had healed somebody, and they started to say, "Oh, you're Satan. You're a really bad guy. You broke the Sabbath." And he said to them, who of you will not pull out your cow out of the ditch? It falls in the Sabbath. So don't be hypocrites. But he says this is very important. He says, "I am from above, you are from below. If you love the Father, you would love me, because I proceed from the Father. But you do not love me, because you are of your father, the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do, for he was a murderer and a liar from the beginning." Now, I read that passage when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and it puzzled me because I'd already read the Bible and been indoctrinated in the Bible for several years. And then I went through the Bible and I couldn't find the murder part, so I asked about it. Yeah, it's the father, what's this about? Liar. We all know he's a liar. What was this part about the murder? Oh, and then the priest made up, well, he's always trying to murder your soul. But when you pursue the quest and arrive, you find out that Lucifer's sin and Lucifer's fall was precipitated by his own actions. Mm-hmm. When the creation unfolded and the light was released, the light was born. Christ, God, Adam manifested. Mm-hmm. Lucifer remained as the afterbirth of the universe and congealed into another being, and he had a role there. He had a function, but he did not like the light. He wanted to be back in the darkness because he had been the amniotic sac around the fetus of the cosmic Christ.
Wow.
And he wanted to go back into darkness. He said to himself, "I will slay him. I will tear him. I will tear his heart out and cast it to the four corners of the universe, and then I alone will be king." Right. And when he thought that thought, it was instantaneous. It was a murderous impulse, and what he tried to do was murder God. And when he tried to murder God, he failed. And he crashed, quite literally. And in the crashing, he went through a transformation. His nature was changed from that of a resplendent angel into a slimy snake.
Right, there's the snake.
Yes, and that's why the serpent is part of this association of negativity, evil, and death.
And with the Illuminati. So we have about 8 minutes left, and I was just wondering if, I love everything that you're saying, and I would love to have you back on a show to really dig into this, because this is just beyond anything that I even imagined we could dig into. But is Satan, like a hand in? Does he have a hand in the Illuminati, or can we tie that together? Or?
I believe that, and let me explain this.
Okay.
It's a split personality, right? Satan, Lucifer, it's a schizophrenic. It's got two natures. And it actually contends against itself. If you have intellect, supreme intelligence, supreme intellect, and you have ravenous hatred, ravenous lust, murderous impulses, those two things are always warring with each other. So people say to me, "Oh, you believe in the devil?" And I say, "Yeah." He said, "You believe in Lucifer?" I said, "Yeah." "What about Satan?" "Yeah." They say to me, what is Lucifer?" I say, "Lucifer is intelligence without love." Right? And what is Satan? Satan is passion without reason, uncontrollable. Both are evil. Wow. Because you want to hear the perfect example of Luciferism, intelligence without love, the Nazis and the Holocaust.
Right.
Yeah. They had a problem.
Right.
The Nazis had a problem, a cultural problem. They could not reconcile. They tried to reconcile it, by the way. This is part of the forbidden history. As you were saying, someone opened your eyes to, that Hitler had a lot of positive programs going. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
And one of them was he established the state of Israel.
Okay, so
It was Hitler who sent German settlers to Palestine with funding from Germany in the hope that the remaining Jews would follow them to Palestine and build their homeland. And one of the hidden facts of history is that Adolf Eichmann, who was a captured war criminal who facilitated the Holocaust by being great at logistics and making the transport system really, really efficient, he had gone to Israel twice as an emissary of the German government to see how the first kibbutzes, German Jews, were doing, and he said it was great. We should help them all get over here.
So we have 4 minutes till we close. So
okay.
I just wanted to let you know in case we went somewhere that needed more time than that. But so this is very interesting because my research, leading up to this show did lead me back to the Nazis and to Israel. So that's very interesting. But can you just speak a little bit, like in 3 minutes, about what's going on with how people's minds are getting hijacked?
Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, people's minds were hijacked in 1963. MK Ultra succeeded in imposing mass trauma-based mind control. They knew that by traumatizing a victim, destabilizing them, they could create another person out of them. With the Kennedy assassination, they did that to the entire nation and a large part of the world. Right. In the aftermath, they split reality, and basically the Wizard of Oz took over and hijacked most of America's consciousness and took it in the wrong direction. But over the course of 56 years, a lot of people weren't swayed that way. God bless Jim Mars, Jim Fetzer, and so many others. We refused to accept the Warren Commission reality. That was an Illuminati-imposed fake reality. So I say to everyone, if you believe that Lee Oswald killed President Kennedy alone and that what you see in the Zapruder film is real, you're no better off than a bunch of munchkins in Oz.
And flying monkeys. Watch out for the flying monkeys. We have about 2 minutes till we close the show. And Robert, I just really want to thank you and let you know how much I really respect and honor the work that you do. I mean, not just the intellectual work, but of course the physical work that you do with your martial arts. And I would love to have you back and talk about this JFK stuff, because I think it's important. Okay.
I agree. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And if I don't hear you again, I would like to say Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Please also let people know where they can get a hold of you and your websites and things like that.
Okay. Sure. Fastest way to get in touch with me, I guess, is by Facebook. Robert Morningstar.12. But look for the one with the head of a dolphin, because I espouse the mind of the dolphin and the movements of the dolphin. I'll tell you more about that another time. And I also have UFO Digest, is a website that carries the best writers in the up-to-date reports. So UFOdigest.com. And I also have another one called UFO Spotlight at WordPress.com. Mm-hmm. And so feel free. And my email, robert.morningstar@gmail.com. Very mysterious.
Very cryptic.
Robert.morningstar@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks, Robert.
You've been listening to Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. Every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The balance of power is shifting to a new paradigm. Will you be ready? For more information on Broadcast Team Alpha, as well as the hosts Nori Love and Augie Nost, please visit their website at broadcastteamalpha.com. Until next week, remember to keep those minds open while always exploring the endless quantum possibilities.
Broadcast Team Alpha. Over and out.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is